Welcome to Biz Dev Live. My name is Cameron Toth, and I have the honor, the amazing Glenn Thayer is with us. He is the voice of meetings and events. We're going to talk about his background. We're going to talk about the record label. We're going to talk about how he became the voice of meetings and events. He's a true media professional. I can't wait to get into it. It's going to be a fun show. I hope you're interacting, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the recorded version. Please drop some comments, like, share. It's going to be an amazing show. We're going to provide a ton of value to you. I'll be right back after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Glenn Thayer is known as the voice of meetings and events. As a professional conference moderator and brand spokesperson, he specializes in creating dynamic general sessions, enhancing the audience experience through the use of technology, compelling content, and open, interactive dialogue and interviews. Glenn is a certified meeting professional and a contributing author to the meeting and event design section of the Event Industry Council's CMP manual. In addition to emceeing live, virtual, and hybrid events over the last 2 decades, Glenn also speaks on general session and event design. I met him when we were doing Event Camp back in 2010, one of the most interesting, engaging presenters that I have seen on any stage. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today, Glenn.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cameron. It's been a while since we couldn't get together in person. I guess we're doing it this way, and we get to visit with each other and the world at the same time, which is great. So,
yeah, it's kind of nice. I get to be in Denver, Colorado, with you virtually. I couldn't do as much traveling as I've done over the last 8 months in terms of being in people's offices and bedrooms and studios and all of that jazz. It's been quite interesting, fun. I think I've met more people, new people in the last 8 months than I have in the last 8 years. And I've interviewed 700 staff in the last 9 years for Toth Event Staffing. So that's saying something, right? It's been interesting because it has provided some opportunity to reach out to people. You can pack a lot more into your day from your desk. Horrible for my back, but great for my interaction with people. Talk to me about what you're currently doing, how you're engaging with people. I know there's got to be a little bit of a demand for somebody that can do some engagement and virtual hosting.
Well, this last year has just been, it's been crazy for everybody, and everything's kind of been upended. So, if anything, what I've been doing a lot of this year has been doing a lot of brand spokesperson work via voiceover. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've been doing a lot of virtual events, a lot of consulting. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's been very little travel. I have done some of the virtual events. I said over half of them are in a studio, which is becoming more popular these days, is to go to a studio that has all the COVID precautions set up. And then you're able to have a producer, have the whole crew there. Makes it a little bit easier instead of everybody being remote. But outside of that, it's pretty much, been home with the family, trying to find a good place in the house. We purchased another house, or not another house. We moved and bought this house, and I'm currently having a studio under construction right now. So I'm pretty much going, do I sit in the office? Do I go into the family room where the studio is currently? And we've got 4 kids that are in virtual school right now, all at the same time. So it is kind of interesting. It's like, where can I go right now that it'll be quiet so I can actually get stuff done?
I don't think that's an uncommon sort of thought process in this working from home moment for everybody across the nation. I love the fact that you're building a new studio. I think that's something that, for folks that are in the meetings and events arena, whether you're in front of the camera professionally, or even just, somebody that needs to be able to meet virtually people, it's such a great idea to be able to control your environment and have your tech set up in such a way. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Anthony Vade.
No, I haven't heard of Anthony Vade.
Oh, okay. I got to connect the two of you because you guys
Okay.
will get along. He's got an incredible tech setup. He was on the show, and I was just kind of like, drooling because I was like, wow, he's got. I mean, not only is it impressive because he's using it, right? So while he was on the show with me, he was giving me the multiple angles, but then you look at his setup, and it literally, as he's showing his tech gear, it literally looks like out of Star Trek. I'm like, whoa.
That's awesome.
He's got the lights blinking, and it looks like he's ready to launch some nuclear missiles or something from his desk, which which lights up the techie, nerdy side of my brain pretty nicely. So you guys will get off. I'll definitely connect the both of you. So
that'd be awesome. Because right now, I have the virtual studio set up, if you will. It's one of those where it's 50% set up, so it can be moved around because of all the different things that somebody may need. They go, hey, I need a green screen. Great. Okay, I move some of the furniture out of the way, put up the green screen, set up all the rest of the lights. Some lights are there permanently, but you constantly moving things around, and since it's a temporary space, it makes it interesting. But I do have in the other side of the house, that's where I have all the other gear. I've got the mini A10 Pros. I've got all the little switchers, all the things to actually do something. This is like, let's take the laptop into the office and put the little Logitech webcam up on the top and make it simple, instead of having all the gear on and the headphones, or using in-ear pieces, or using the IFBs.
Yeah, well, this is a relaxing conversation. We don't need the Tony Robbins experience today. We just need to get into your brain a little bit. So talk to me about this also, because I know you talked about going out in studios. Before I get into your background, because I just wanted to ask the question while it was top of brain here. One of the things that I think has been challenging, because I've had a lot of amazing individuals on this show. This is episode, I think, 181. And, the most professional person, the most knowledgeable person, once the tech, like, the Wi-Fi goes out, it's all over, right? It's like kind of a downhill slide. So what have you gotten from the studios? Because I know I've worked actually a lot when I was first just getting online and doing these YouTube streams. I was looking at other people's streams, like, why is theirs so clear and mine is coming in so clunky? The video isn't. And then I realized, like, okay, it's not about download stream, it's about upload. And then I looked at the upload, and I realized I was paying my internet service provider for a level of service that I wasn't actually receiving. So that was a phone call. So there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning that goes into actually presenting and doing this stuff virtually. It's not just being able to speak clearly. It's not just about being able to get your lighting set up. There's a whole lot more to making especially the live virtual experience something that you can count on, and something that's an actual really good experience.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because at my house right now, I have two internet connections coming in. I have one coming from CenturyLink, and I have one coming in from Comcast or Xfinity. I've got gigabit service there, and I've got the highest service that I can get from CenturyLink here, which really isn't that high. I think it's 100 megs down, 10 megs up, I think is what it is. I live in an older neighborhood, so fiber's never happening here. That's pretty much what they told me. So what I've done is I have a summing router that allows me to have both those internet connections come in, and it kind of piles them together and allows me, if one goes down, I still have internet. Unfortunately, my cell service is absolutely terrible at my house. So trying to tether it to a Wi-Fi might be sketchy. So we've kind of come around doing a virtual event saying, okay, well, what if the internet goes out? Okay, well, I have a backup for that. I have a backup that can carry a stream without a problem. Next thing, you start looking at power. It's like, what happens if the power goes out? Do you have a generator that you can make things happen? Or is there enough signal on the Wi-Fi on the phone that I can tether the phone to see if I can get something going on and use the battery strength of one of the laptops or another device? So there's usually try to go as many different backups there. Really, the big plan is who else is going to be on the team that is going to carry it if something goes down really quick. So what is the plan B? What's the plan C? What's the plan D?
I love the event planner aspect of that, because you really are thinking through, all right, what happens if, I was doing, we pulled these networking calls as we were going into the pandemic, late March, early April. Our local MPI, Meeting Professionals International chapter, we weren't really, we're having trouble figuring out how are we going to service people, bring people together. It's a challenging time for our industry. How do we get people together to actually, one of the big things for me back in 2009, and this has been the story with this, is that, MPI was huge for me as I was, being laid off from my meeting planning management company. I was doing medical education. It was financial downturn. Like, what do I do and where do I go? MPI was my support system. And so now we're in a place where, that support system is more needed than ever before, and we can't get together live. So what do we do? And the chapter really wasn't, we were doing like webinar stuff, and for kind of background for folks and how Glenn and I met, we met at event camp. So webinar format is just not the thing that is stepping things up, right? It's not bringing things to the next level. It's not engaging. We got YouTube, we got that. I don't need to get on live in the middle of my day and disrupt, taking care of my children, my pets, my dogs, whatever's going on outside with weather, to be on something that really should just be able to watch whenever I want in my PJs, whatever. Why am I on camera? All that kind of stuff. So we did lunch bunch. And the reason I'm telling the story is because we were going through this, and then, the power did go out, right? We had blackouts, and I'm like, all right, can somebody else run this? No. Oh, you got a digital certification in digital events. Oh, you still can't run the Zoom meeting? Oh, okay. All right. So I'm taking my 27-inch iMac, putting it in my minivan, going over to my brother-in-law's place so that I can run this midday lunch bunch seminar, because there was nobody else to do it. I was on the line for it, and if you don't have the backup plan, that's what you end up doing in the middle of a power outage. So it's great having that planning. And this was with meeting planning. We were all meeting planners, and so I was still not in that place. And I think that's pretty typical of meeting planning organizations. Unfortunately, we're not the best meeting planners for our own planners. Something about the shoemaker's shoes or something like that.
Oh yeah, the cobbler's kids have no shoes. But I want to touch on something really quick, because you mentioned event camp where we had met, and people go, event camp, what the heck is event camp? I don't know what that is. And really, it's something that we had a group. It kind of came up from the Event Profs hashtag that Laura McCullough started. Oh goodness. And it was, and what is it? Christina Costner, I believe, back in, was it 2008 on Twitter, 2007? I forgive me, and I'm going to apologize to both the ladies if I screw up the time.
You're doing a pretty good job. You're mentioning a lot of the good names. And
I'm going back to the day, but what happened was they had all the Event Profs hashtag, and we were all on Twitter. We were all going, how do we make meetings better? How do we make them more interactive? General sessions suck. They're not interactive. It's just, okay, it's a bunch of talking heads, pomp and circumstance. Not working. So we have this whole forum, these threads going on Twitter on how we can make things better. And eventually, I don't remember who had said it, whether it was Jeff Hurd or somebody else is like, why don't we get together and The first one happened in New York City. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend personally, but this was the first actual true hybrid event that I know of. Whoever showed up in New York City, everybody threw up their laptops, their cell phones. They were on Ustream at the time, is what we were using.
Yeah, I was there, and I was
live.
streaming it live on site.
Yeah. So what was happening is people would turn around, or people would go in via Skype, and then they'd flip around the laptop, and there I am. I'm at the event in New York, but I'm home in Colorado. But I'm having conversations with people. We're going back and forth. We have questions, using social media, using Twitter to be able to take questions for people who didn't have the bandwidth to be able to do the video. I mean, it was great. It was a great experience. And then I believe the next event camp was Event Camp Twin Cities in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And that was Samuel Smith, I believe, put that on. I can't remember who else did that one as well.
Ray Hansen was involved. A bunch of people, yeah.
And then, so we went there, and that's when I started presenting on. I know I was actually hosting some of that with Emily Barta. I mean, we were going through. There was two of them. I was also.
I have some great pictures of us from that time. We had
from that event. Yeah, I mean, it was great because what we did is we pushed the envelope. So the next one for Minneapolis, we had these other pods. I mean, you're hearing a lot about the hub and spoke model, where the main event is happening, and then you have all these different areas where you could have an event. Let's say it's happening in Denver. Okay, it's happening live in Denver. We have 50 people here who are appropriately physically distanced and a safe meeting, if you will. And then you have these these spokes that are happening. You might be in Los Angeles, you can be in Vancouver, Canada, you can be in Minneapolis, you can be in New York, and you can be in Orlando, Florida. And those have their own little meetings, if you will, regional meetings, and they have their own little pods, and everybody's able to interact. In Minneapolis, when we had event camp, I think we had Silicon Valley, we had Mike McCallan out over there that was doing some things there. We had Ruud Janssen, who was, see, there you go. You've got that. That must have been 2010. Was that 2010, 2011, something like that?
I'll look it up, but that's a good shot of you doing some of the virtual presenting with the event camp logo in the background, and Sonic Foundry, which did an amazing job at the time with doing the actual live stream of that, and having that for the recording, like, big part of this whole thing, having that media that you could then use after was such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, but the whole point of event camp was pushing the boundaries. Like, how do we push it? And I think the thing that Sam kept saying was, we're going to push it until it breaks. So then we're going to use social media. We're going to use Sonic Foundry to push it out. We were using Skype to bring all the speakers in and all the individual pods. I mean, it was great talking to Ruud, because we were out he was in Basel, Switzerland, and it was time for wine. And for us, it was, 10 in the morning, something to that effect, or noon. Like, we were having lunch and they were having wine. It was great. It was very, very, very cool. I'm so glad you had those pictures. It's so very cool. But yeah, there's so many different ways. We were experimenting with seating. We were experimenting with ways of delivering sessions throughout the day that were interactive, that were different. It was like, take all the things that were bad about meetings that we have complaints of as far as meeting professionals, and let's change it. And we really pushed then from that time for the next decade, really pushing the envelope, saying, okay, we have to do better. The events we're planning events that we personally would not want to attend. And I think that was really the draw. It's like, so let's get away from that and let's start planning events and designing events that we would want to attend, that are engaging, that are informative. So people leave with, oh, I got something from that. And not only did I get a takeaway from that, I know how to implement it. And I think that was something that was really missing, is we get great information. Like, you can go to YouTube and get information. Google is the encyclopedia of everything. You get tons of information. What you usually don't get is how to implement it. And hearing, and what's great is hearing how people are implementing things and where things are breaking. And that was where event camp was great. The last one that we had, I know we had two in Minneapolis. We had Tahira did one. Oh, there's Emily in Minneapolis. We had Tahira Indine produced the event camp in Vancouver, which was fabulous as well. I think that was the last big one that we had. We did Chicago. We had the national conference there. There was a whole bunch of them, and that's kind of where it was. And it was based on a model. Some sessions were co-created right there in the immediate space.
Which I love. I think one of the reasons that we haven't seen more of it is it's tough to sell and getting the marketing around it, to build conferences that don't have, people want to see the speakers, people buy on that, or at least that's the assumption. So having somebody to talk about it, but in terms of the actual experience of it, those were some of the best conferences to this date that I've ever been involved with.
Well, and it had the thing that the element that was there is everyone there was a participant, and it was your job, if you attended, to participate. You were augmenting the outcome of the conference in real time. And it didn't matter whether you were on site in person or if you were virtual. It did not matter. So it didn't matter either way. As long as you were there, you were contributing and you were changing what was happening. It wasn't like, here's the talking head for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. If there was a question, that person was stopped, and you would stop and ask the question. It was great. It wasn't like we're doing Q&A at the end. I really loved those. Those really, I think, set the tone for the next decade from 2010 all the way to where we are now. I still think there's a lot of things that we can learn, all those learnings that we can take from there. Tahira wrote a white paper from Event Camp Vancouver. If you type Event Camp Vancouver white paper, you should be able to find it in Google. I think it is still out there. Everything that's in there is relevant today. Some of the technology, maybe, we're not necessarily using Twitter now as the main source of taking questions online. We're not, we have dedicated channels now within the platforms that we can use for communication. However, you take some of those concepts and put them in today, it's all relevant.
It's going to be interesting how they incorporate new technologies. It's really interesting now. I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, Glenn. Are you?
Not yet. I was looking at that. I have a whole lot of people that have been in there. How is that platform? Because
it's really good. It's really interesting. And interestingly enough, even though it's audio, right? So it has of that event prof's early Twitter feeling. It really feels like that. You're bringing people together around like topics. We talk about event profs. For those that are watching this that sort of don't understand that, hashtag event profs was our rallying cry. And so when you went on to Twitter, you would search by the hashtag event profs, and suddenly you found your tribe. You were with your tribe. You were speaking with your tribe. And what I think ended up happening is that, every supplier and money motivated individual that started to understand that it was a big deal started muddying the waters like any other channel. Right. And I think, there's a way to talk about this where you start saying, oh, social media is horrible and all that stuff. Social media was amazing. It was absolutely amazing and is amazing. It's how do you adapt with the changing times? Every platform gets watered down. I love when Gary Vee talks about this, TV, the format, right? Sponsoring a show, right? The days of cigarettes and a lot of other things, but the days that, whatever, Walmart, was sponsoring this show. The show is brought to you by, that changed into the 30-second ad. And now, the world has moved past the 30-second ad. And now we're into, how do we, get the message across on platforms, Facebook advertising? There's always a new way to market. And so people discovered the event profs hashtag and they started marketing to it. Yeah.
It's funny, you talk about everything that's, people are seeing new platforms, new ways. It's like, oh, Clubhouse, audio only. This is great. This is brand new. It's new technology. No, it's not new technology. The technology itself is new, but it's not new. We had party lines back in the, in the 80s on the phones when you had a landline phone. Clubhouse, it sounds to me, I haven't been on it, so I'm not going to say, but it sounds to me if it's audio only and people are gathered around a certain subject, that's a party line. That's audio.
It is. So,
you know,
the difference is that it's got a little bit of technology behind it. So you have some features, right? So you can organize it by interest. You can find your tribe. So it's clubs, right? It's different places to go. It's live and it's engaging in the sense that it's built to be participatory. So there's a stage. You can be invited onto the stage. You can be a moderator on the stage, or just somebody that's up on the stage that can be tossed off the stage if necessary by the moderator. So there's a little bit of actual moderation and facilitation for the environment. And then you have the listening audience that doesn't have the option to speak, but they can raise their hand if that option is given by the moderators. And they can come on the stage and they can leave the stage themselves. So there's some technology to it that allows for participation and engagement. And, for a thought leader, you can gain a following. For somebody looking for information, you can find it. For somebody that wants to ask a question and be a part of the discussion, there's going to be that ability for you to do that on the platform. And it's really popular. It's iOS only. So it's iPhone and iPad only right now. And
I'm gonna have you send me an invite then.
Yeah,
I'll sign up and you can send me an invite so I can check that out.
So somebody send Glenn Thayer an invite. And what do you mean
somebody? Why can't you send me one?
Well, one of the things that's difficult is I'm an Android guy, right? So I got on with the iPad, and so I haven't figured out the whole invite thing. There's some people that are on my contact list. And so if you get in, you get on the waiting list, if you're in somebody's address book, it'll automatically pop up. And then it'll say, I can invite this person. That happened today. One of my contacts is on there. So you got to get on, like it's a whole thing. And then
I'll check it out.
As you're on the platform, sometimes you're given invites. I think like mine is stuck in a holding pattern because I was pushing buttons and I gave it to somebody maybe I shouldn't have. Like they penalize you. Like, if you give it to somebody that's not a good community member, you may be shut out of getting invites. So it's a whole thing. So the invite thing is a little bit tough. But my value add for folks that are listening is don't be shy about asking for an invite. Put up a LinkedIn post, tag me on it. We'll put it out to the community. Somebody has an invite to give
Somebody
you.
will have it.
It's not that hard. And if you got a good network, as I know Glenn does, as I do, it's not that hard to find somebody that has an invite. What's hard maybe for some people is to say, hey, I'm not in the in club. I'm not in yet. Can I have an invite? So that's tough for some people, but it's not tough to get an invite. I want to shout out Maria.
Yes, I was going to say that. I wanted to shout out to her because she mentioned something that's really imperative and something that we've all seen over the last year. Like she said, we've been doing this since 2009. We've really been working on all these initiatives, and when you really look at it, you go, well, why are meeting professionals not here? Why is it such a struggle to flip everything around? And I have the answer, because number one, meeting professionals and meeting planners are typically not broadcast producers. So what we're doing now essentially is, if we're taking let's take a major conference, okay? If we go MPI, if we take WEC, the World Education Congress, and we go, let's put this online. You're creating a television broadcast. You're creating a television show. And as a meeting professional, if you don't have a background in live broadcast television, it can be difficult. And you're putting it online. You're now competing with everything. You're competing with email. You're competing with kids needing to eat or do schoolwork or running around or need to go to a doctor's appointment. I mean, there's all these things that are happening. And even if you are at your computer, you still have lots of distractions that are happening all over the place. So now they're put into a position of going, I am planning the logistics of a meeting, and now I have to do the strategy and the strategic and the logistics end of a television broadcast. And a lot of people, I think when they went, they said, let's just take everything we were doing physically and let's put it digitally. So let's just take everything and we're going to take it and say, okay, we have these people speaking, let's take the keynotes and we're just going to put it into a virtual format. And unfortunately for engagement, that does not work. What I have seen, and I talked about this in my keynote my keynote presentation that I did at Event Camp, not only in 2010 but in 2011, talking about a TV show format like the Today Show or you name it. You have 60 minutes. Your general sessions are 60 minutes, and you're looking at it, and it's like every 3 minutes you typically have something going on. It could be, here's your commercial. You got a sponsor segment that comes up. You don't have a talking head. You have a 30-second commercial that comes up that ties into the content that you're talking about. I mean, we can go on for days about all the different strategies, but what I believe is that meeting professionals were struggling because instantly the world had changed, and they're now put into a new role that they're not ready for. And that's the challenging thing. So the biggest thing that I could say is they turn into more project managers and bring in a broadcast producer who has that experience. It could be an individual production company, whether it be a video production company who deals in streaming exclusively and understands all of those pieces to do live television. Or partnering with one of the AV companies now. It could be an Image Audio Visuals. It could be a CEVCO. Could be a PSAV. You name your favorite AV, Fastlane Productions. Name your favorite AV production company and work with them, because I can tell you they have been busting it time and time again to get this right.
I wanted to show off Brandt Krueger in the background here with the AV team that was in Twin Cities. This was amazing.
Yeah, and thank you for calling out Brandt, because Brandt, we've known Brandt now it's 12, 13 years, something to that effect. And he is the guru. I mean, I know he does a ton of consulting. If you're looking for somebody to kind of put together the whole package for you, soup to nuts on the production end, on the technical side, you need to hire somebody who has that experience. Brandt is somebody who I would call if I needed to produce a full segment and a full conference. I would say, Brandt, I need you to come in and handle the technical, because I know a lot of them and I can project manage a lot of the pieces. But coming into the soup to nuts, because the technology keeps advancing, it becomes simpler, but it's also more intricate.
Yeah, let me say this. Maria says, love everything Glenn is saying. I find it interesting that many a meeting prof struggled with taking events virtually this past year. This was done back in 2011 in such a great way. And I hear continually over again, with the Texie Talks with Liz King Caruso and her stuff. And there's a lot of people that talk about, with virtual, you need more people. With virtual, you need more people. And they're given all these different explanations. This is the easiest way that I can explain it. With a live meeting, I have a presenter on the stage. I got some people that are guiding the live people through the event to the next spot. That is, there's people that are usually provided by the venue. So when you think of actual physical bodies, the live event may have more people. The virtual event needs more professionals, right? Because you have to have, all right, we're going to have a presenter. Then we got to go over to Glenn or Emily in between the speakers to keep the live at home audience engaged, whether they're going for a snack or whether they're sitting at their table, to keep the live stream going. Because to your point, it's a professional broadcast. There's got to be something going on to keep this interesting. There's got to be.
You talk about the professional broadcast. It is totally something that it is your brand on the line. Think of it that way. This is where you have conversations with marketing or the CMO, because it's the brand on the line. They go, okay, we're not going to give you any more budget to do this. You have the same budget. Well, now you're like, well, let's have a big Zoom meeting. Well, that's going to be painful for everyone. So you're looking at it saying, all right, what do you have to do? It's like if the brand's name is on the line, how are you going to make it work? One of the things that I loved about last year, and it's the show The Voice. So if any of you watching, if you haven't seen, I can't even tell you the seasons. I don't watch this regularly. My wife watches it, so I always come in and see it. It's like she has it on, and I'm like, oh, let's see what's happening here. I came in and she's like, you have to see this. You have to see what they've done. And it was right. I want to say this is probably April. They still have to film. They still have a season that they're in the middle of that they're doing live. And they had all the judges were in their homes and everybody's broadcasting. And what I noticed is how many challenges, technical challenges they were having consistently. The audio's going out, videos being wonky. And mind you, this is a show with millions and millions of dollars for budget. And they send out the kits. They have people come and help set them up. I mean, it is done top level. And you see how many things break down and screw up. And if you realize that, you go, let's take a step back and go, it's okay. Let's take a big breath in and know that people who have the top television production folks in the business are working on this, but things are still not working. So, look at it, but you can see the things that they have done, and you're going, wow, this is a TV show, a 60-minute TV show or whatever. And I think there are still some episodes on Hulu that you can pull up. And I want to say it's between April and June of last year for 2020. Check it out, because there might be some things in there to glean from it and go, oh, that was really cool. Maybe we can take something from that. If anything, look at television, look at how you consume information as a person. I know for me, I much prefer being able to go to a recording later and look over it, because my day at any time, I can start getting pinged on my phone, and within a half hour, I know as soon as we're done here, I'm back in the studio again. So it's not something, it's just, you just go, 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 go.
So we've already accomplished something today, Glenn. Maria says she's got an invite for you for Clubhouse. So
I'll take you up on it, Maria.
All right. And then she says, I absolutely agree. The reason I moved into virtual event production very early into the pandemic is because I have a team of video content creators and marketers, but also remember that what worked back in the day on hybrid events. I took what I know from the meeting and planning side to come up with true immersive experiences. So your point, having the strong tech production team is key. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to knowing that, we started out, at the very beginning of this broadcast today, talking about, internet service and understanding that you're going to have, basically 3 backups built in, because I guarantee you, whether it's, Verizon or Opt Online or I forget the name that you mentioned earlier, but, it's going to go down, right? There's going to be an internet service provider problem at some point because of weather and the world, and it's just what's going to happen. So, I guarantee you, part of the problem, is human error always, and then the other half is that technology is only good as its weakest link, and those things are going to break sometimes. So it's being prepared for it.
One other last thing that I wanted to put out there, because I mentioned the voice. That's a good thing to see, like what happened when they pivoted, right? And they go, let's go through. We're talking about the big pivot, if you will, when they had to put everybody at home, what they did and what it looked like. So I think a lot of meeting professionals need to kind of take a step back and go, it wasn't a fail. It was just step back and breathe and be, okay, this is something that's brand new for us getting into television, if you will. And Maria, see, same thing. You've got 3 backups to prepare for it. One of the things that would be really, really good for meeting professionals who are doing virtual, saying, okay, what are some other options? How do we do it? What is it on the technical side? To get an idea of really to do a high-end production. What was great is there were a lot of articles and a lot of coverage that you can find on the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. Look at the DNC and RNC and look at technically what went into that. So this is not political in any way, shape, or form. It's just solely on the technical side, and see what goes into producing an event at that level. Because I think a lot of meeting professionals look at it and say, well, I want my event to be at this level, and this is what I want it to look at. But the problem is they're missing all of the technical pieces that go into that. And in addition to the technical piece, one last thing I want to address is when you're taking a physical in-person event and making it virtual, you're basically blowing up the entire thing. You can't think of it as going, I'm just going to take the physical and make it virtual now. Don't do that. You have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what are the goals and objectives? Our goals and objectives for the physical conference is X. Okay, great. So the goals and objectives for the virtual is still going to be X, but it's how do you create those experiences and that engagement to meet those goals and objectives. And that's really what I want to kind of wrap it around, is always go back to that. Go back to meeting planning basics. Go back to the basics of having a really great meeting and then design around that. And having a really great meeting doesn't mean you have a 5-6 hour conference. I know one of my clients, when they switched over to take their in-person, their one-day conference, they made 4 1-hour segments once a week. And it was great. They had more people come in on each one of those than they've ever had as far as their attendance in person is concerned. They picked up additional members. I mean, it was really a
great conversation. I think one of the things that happens is you have these false positives, right? So we think, all right, so we have these amazing speakers and people sign up for the speakers, which I would say to some extent is true.
Yeah.
But when you show up at a big conference, what are you there for? You're there for the interaction and engagement, typically with the other participants and engage, the folks that you're actually in that conference with. It's typically, maybe you got a photo with the big deal speaker. Maybe that's a big tangible that you walk away with.
Yeah, but nobody cares about the meet and greet. At the end of the day, you go, oh, great. Hey, I met this speaker and this author. It's like, okay, great. But meeting that person, how is that going to affect your life, your business, your relationships? How does that affect it? It's like, great, I met that person. Okay, great. You've got a photo.
Thing, right? We're an event planner. So going back to your point, you can't take this event that, okay, so the great thing about this event, right? Because they're going with the positives that they have, like there was great speakers, we had great, banners or whatever, right? And what they're doing is they're building this idea of what was great with this event, when the attendees, for them, it was the interaction, because I've seen it time and time again. I've seen okay, we have all these people that are tuning in live, and hey, don't network. Pay attention to the speaker.
Yeah.
You just took away what was the good thing in the live event and just ruined the virtual event because you've forced the attendees not to actually talk to you.
Well, and then you have all these platforms that come up, like we did one where we had like platforms like Gatherly or Remo or things. What they can do is then it allows them to connect, because I think that face-to-face, or I would say face-to-face, but video to video, where you can choose who you're talking with and join. We did with one client. After that 1 hour, what they decided to do is they wanted networking, because networking was the biggest thing that their attendees wanted out of this. So we were putting suppliers together with brokers. Now, what we ended up doing is we used Gatherly as the platform for this one. And we were using, what were we broadcasting on? We broadcast this using Vimeo's live stream, so we could broadcast it on their website behind their member login. When they were done, then we flipped it over and we went to Gatherly to do the networking. Because right now it's like the platform, having a robust platform where people could interact and kind of go to that little cocktail table, like, oh, here's a group of people. I'm going to go right over to this group of people, and instantly, boom, now I am in this video chat with these 6 other people. And now you have these robust conversations. What we got from that is business got done, relationships were formed, people loved it. Also on the plus side, positive remarks on all of it. The downside to that is we had to go to another platform. And this is where the challenge is coming in from the live stream. We've got all these people on the live stream, and then we pop over there and we lose 90% of the attendees going to the new platform, because they're like, well, I don't really need the networking because virtual networking is going to suck. So yeah, I'm not going to do it. That's what I think they went to, and we lost them no matter how much.
Ease of use, right? Too. This is a big thing with online marketing in general, right? I'm going to say this because I think this is extreme value. Like we've been on the in-person events, and so we've all heard of these apps. Okay, I take my phone and I bump it up with your phone, and contact information automatically transfers.
That was Bump,
right? So. So those things have never really truly taken off because why? Because everybody's on a different platform, doesn't really work. Everybody's got to set up their system the sort of the same way. You got to be on the same page. Doesn't really work, right? It's not universal. So finding the things that people really understand and get, and it's easy. So like, for example, online, if I tell you to go to, hey, I love canva.com. It's what I use to make the thumbnails, what I use to make the background that you're seeing all around us today with Glenn Thayer's name on it. Hopefully I spelled that right. If I put into the chat canva.com and it doesn't turn into a blue link, chances are less people are going to go visit the site. Now, if I put the HTML address in it, into the Zoom chat, and it's a link, chances are more people are going to go visit that link. So for your business, for your LinkedIn profile, for your Facebook thing, for your YouTube page that you're trying to promote, and this is great for everybody that's on here, you're on a virtual meeting or event right now, put that full link in there and make it easy for people to go to. So the big thing that, is really challenging in the virtual environment, which, by the way, is the same thing in the in-person environment. If you make it really challenging to get to the second venue, you're going to see a huge drop off.
Yeah. And even if it's easy, and this is something we have the page, here's the page where the video is. We're populating links. We're going through, here's where down right below the window. Here's where everything is. During broadcast, I'm saying, here's what you do.
Are not properly set up, right? So if you know that you're gonna right, because there's always attrition, right? Always attrition, real life, virtual, whatever. I have 1,000 people that have said they're going to the event on LinkedIn. How many people actually show up to the event in virtual? Same thing in real life. How many people register to the event? Maybe even paid for a ticket. And they're not coming. There's always attrition, but it's that education, right? You want your attrition rate to be lower. What do you have to do in terms to educate people? You were saying about making sure that they understood that the networking component isn't going to suck, and the success story behind it, and how you actually present that, right? Which is why you would work with Glenn Thayer, by the way, because he'll explain it really well.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. But yeah, I mean, you make it. It's like it's got to be keep it super simple. So the KISS method, right? Keep it super simple. Make it easy. There's too many distractions that are here, and everybody working from home. It's like they're going to check the email during your stream, and the way I kind of look at it is take your favorite epic movie. It doesn't matter what it is. Take Lord of the Rings, The Godfather, The Irishman. Whatever movie. Let's take that 2.5 to 3 hour epic film. That epic film is made for you to be in your seat and to be fully engaged. And me personally, I can tell you, I last about an hour. I drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of tea. And about every hour, I am getting up. So if you don't have a place for me to get up, I'm leaving anyway. And so consider how many people in your audience are doing the same thing. And I know a lot of folks go, I don't want to do a break. I don't want to do a break because I'm going to lose people. You're going to lose people either way. And I haven't seen, there's arguments on both sides on we'll keep going because then people will come back to the content. Yes, fully understand that. Take a break. And then if the content's engaging enough and people are getting enough value, they'll come back. I haven't seen solid evidence either way. I can just go for myself. If I'm compelled to be there, I'll be there again after the break.
Well, I think it goes again, and this has been such a great conversation. I want to leave a little bit of time for us to talk about your story, but I think it goes back to this false positive thing. I have 1,000 people in the seats, and I'm assuming because the person is present that they are engaging with my event, but the deal, right? They're there. But maybe their mind is someplace else. Maybe they're in their cell phone. I remember, as cell phones were becoming a big thing in the event industry, it's like, all right, so should we put a rule in that people shouldn't be on their cell phones? And then, we got to our events with the with event profs and event camp, and
Mhm.
we were like, no, like, you know, you're on the
Keep
channel.
them on. You need them. You need to be able to interact. And if you don't have that, you're going to be on it anyway. So you look at it again, it doesn't matter whether it's virtual or in person. If it's compelling and engaging enough and you have designed it the right way, people will be in there. And breakouts, and when I talk about things, I'm looking from a general session standpoint. Breakouts are separate. I look at those as more workshop driven. That's where I am there. I'm looking for, here's your main stage general sessions. How do you design those to where they get in there and they go, wow, I need to do that. And just another flip side, I know we're going to go back and hybrid is going to be ramped up. What I'd suggest for people who are getting into hybrid and planners and meeting professionals that are going there, when you get in there, as far as budgets are concerned, or if you're just starting and you go, how do I do this? Just stream your general session. Okay. That's really the first thing. If you're like, how do I do this? You have a production company in there. All the equipment is in there. Make it sexy, make it work, and just do a 60-minute general session that you broadcast. And then you capture as much of the content as you can throughout the conference, and you can put it on either audio. I mean, you can capture general sessions via audio and via video, but if you start to try to broadcast those individual tracks, your budget's going to just go out the window. I mean, you really have to have millions and millions of dollars to do it the right way. And I know there'll be other production companies go, no, we can do it really, really cheap. Yeah, you can, but you go, how many people are going to take advantage of that content? You know, from the hours and the money you've spent, are you going to see that return? And there's also a difference when you're dealing with CEs. So any continuing education, you're dealing with that. I try to stay away. That's a different animal because people still need the CEs. So they'll go on, and what they typically do is what? You turn on the webinar and you're like, the clock is ticking, so they know it's being played. You go, what are the questions at the end? You type in the questions at the end, but you're not really engaged. You know, I mean, that's really it. You're not engaged in the content, especially if it's pre-recorded or if you're watching a recording of it.
Yeah, no, I love it. So let's get into a little bit of your background story. Talk to us about, because we're both passionate about meetings and events. That's why this conversation is going on, and I think it provided a ton of value. But talk to us about how you got into this business. Like, I know there's a record label. How did you get into doing a record label? How did you get to be the voice of meetings and events?
Well, it started, like 1985. I was working at an amusement park in Southern California called Santa's Village. And yes, I was an elf. I wore this little pointy little hat. There's pictures somewhere. I don't know. I have it buried. I haven't seen the picture in years, but if I find it somehow somewhere, I will post it. At that point in time, I did the announcement. I ran the puppet theater, the puppet shop, and I made a bunch of the announcements. So I would be the guy on the microphone picking it up and go, hello, everyone. In 5 minutes in the back of the park, the Rainbow Man's performing on the main stage. So make your way past the twirling Christmas tree right next to Mrs. Claus's famous Spice Kitchen. Don't be late. The show starts in 5 minutes. And then I'd run to the main stage, really quick. I hop on the main stage, and I was like, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, here's the Rainbow Man. And this guy would come up that looked like Bob Ross with a rainbow wig, would have an acoustic guitar and play kid songs. And so I did that for about 4 years, from when I was 13 to 17. I did that. Then I went to go run record stores. I managed record stores at Warehouse Entertainment until about 1995. But during that time, I started a record label, actually I say in 1994, because I had bands that I was doing some music myself. I had some other bands that I was working with and wanted to get their music out. So started a record label called Surreal Records. And I was putting the music out through Warehouse. I was doing some distribution deals there. And I realized my bands on the label needed to play out more. They needed to have, getting them into festivals was difficult. So what I did was I purchased a PA system. I went out, I was like, well, let me get, let me go buy the speakers and the mixers and everything that I needed, lighting systems, and put on some music festivals to be able to have my bands play. And that's kind of how it was. I would do that, and I needed radio. Well, one of the big things is radio, because obviously that's where you get your big hits. as far as listenership. And there was a station down in Southern California, and I wanted to get one of the bands who was I would say an alternative band. If you crossed Alanis Morissette with Smashing Pumpkins, that's about what they sounded like. They were great. Band called Mock Turtle Story. And we wanted to get them on the air. Well, I went to go see the station, to the music director and program director, and didn't really get much through them. It was kind of like, no, they're not in. They're not talking to anybody. So I'd give the receptionist, here's some discs. Can you put these CDs into their cubby hole so they'll get them? And I wrote notes to them. And they went, sure, yeah, I'll absolutely be happy to do that. Next day, I came back into the station, brought breakfast for the receptionist. Hi, how are you? Gave the receptionist breakfast, and again, put the CDs in the cubbies. At the same time, I'm emailing, and yes, this is 1995, 96. I'm emailing them, I'm calling them, and they kept saying, we haven't listened to anything yet, so don't worry about it. We started printing. I decided to go guerrilla marketing on this. I put the radio station's mark behind the band, superimposed the band on this, and printed about 10,000 flyers a week. And we gave those out at all the concerts. We went to the No Doubt concerts, the Smashing Pumpkins concerts, Nine Inch Nails, you name it. We were there passing out flyers, and thousands of flyers. And we made sure we were ahead of the radio station people that were coming. And finally, we were at the No Doubt concert, and the music director happened to be at that concert. And he comes up to me and goes, you can't do this. This is trademark infringement. You see this flyer right here? You have the band there? And I said, what does it say on there? It says, request Mock Turtle Story at the station, and here's the phone number. I said, so we're passing out 10,000 of these a week. And he goes, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, but you can't do it. It's trademark infringement. I said, I'll tell you what, let's do this. On Monday, I'll come by the station. Let's sit down with the general manager. And if he wants me to cease and desist, I will absolutely do that. I don't want to get into legal trouble with anybody. But what I do really have the question is, have you listened to the CD? And he goes, well, no, I haven't listened to it. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I said, one of two things. I said, we can sit down with the GM. Like I said, I'm promoting you 10,000 plus flyers a week. We sit down with the GM. The GM says, stop it. I will stop it and I'll walk away. The other thing that you can do is listen to the CD. If you like the CD, I want this music in your rotation. If you don't like the CD, you don't like the music, tell me, I listened to it, I don't like it. Great. I will leave you alone and won't contact you again about the band. Deal? And he said, I'll listen to it. Well, great. Call him Monday morning. Actually, he called me. He calls me up Monday morning. He goes, I listened to the CD. It's amazing. Can the band come in to the station on Wednesday for the local music showcase? I said, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And so they got into rotation. Well, what happened from there is band got into rotation, got, all the things that happen with the bands. They're touring, they're doing all the great stuff there. And as what happens with all great bands, they break up. That happened. And I was at the Internet World Conference in 1996, and I was at one of the closing night parties. Who put that on? Intel had put on the closing night party. And I was there, and they put on a rave. And so I had all this equipment, right? And I'm watching what's going on, and something came to me after having way too much to drink being there. I thought, because it was a party. It definitely was a party. Half of the party is a bunch of ravers. The other half of the party are people in suits. So it was very, very interesting to see that.
And what was your role at the Internet World Conference? Because I'm pretty impressed that you were at the Internet World Conference in 1996. That seems very prescient.
Well, we had websites and things like that I had to do. So we were kind of at the forefront of what was going on. The main sponsor, the way we were able to get those 10,000 flyers printed each week, our internet provider was there, and it was somebody that I happened to meet in a coffee house. I just ended up talking to somebody, and he's like, oh no, we're setting up an ISP. And I'm like, great. Do you ever do anything in kind? And I worked out a marketing deal with him to put his logo on everything and his website and number. And at the same time, he'd give me free internet access and hosting. So I kind of did that, went to Internet World Conference because I wanted to see what was going on. Macromedia was there, which is now Adobe kind of bought them up. So all of those products are now into the Adobe suite. But really what I did was I went there and I was an attendee. I was not there, and I was more on the raver side. I actually had produced a couple of big music festivals and threw a couple raves back in the 90s. And when I was there, I went, corporate raves. That's what we need, because corporate conferences suck. That was what I got. I can't tell you anything about what happened anywhere, but I can tell you I'm at corporate raves, and I took my company and decided to say, let's focus Surreal Records and turn it into Surreal Entertainment. Let's change that, and let's do corporate events, and let's change the landscape of corporate events. So I would go and host all of the events that I would produce, and did a bunch of social. Then we move.
Maria says we still need corporate.
We still do need corporate waves. It still doesn't have the energy of where it needs to go, but that's really what it did. I ended up changing the name from Surreal Entertainment to MC Squared. Realized that there was a competing company that came up after me in Las Vegas that was an adult themed entertainment. So it was, adult stars and everything in Las Vegas and a lot of those parties. And I'm like, corporate isn't going to want to be associated with that. So let's change the name. So we went MC Squared, and I was really engaged in content. So what I did was kept working on the content. I was hosting things like the Homeland Defense Symposium, where we go into really hardcore content on the protection of the United States and what does that mean, and what does Homeland Defense mean. I've done a whole bunch of those, and I really started focusing there and started enjoying content more, and how to put together the bits and pieces from a meeting planning standpoint to increase engagement. And that got me really on the roll from 2005 to 2010. And then I really just doubled down on everything, got into the meeting professional side, sold off all the gear in 2010, and really focused 100% on how do we then host meetings, as a professional MC, but also on the designing side is how do we strategically design engagement and events where people want to be there and they go, that was awesome, I'm going to go again. I want to be engaged again and again and again. And that's kind of where I am now. And on the other side, I'm doing voiceovers as well for a lot of broadcast voiceover as well. And that brings me to today, hosting live virtual events and being the voice of the brands outside.
I love that guerrilla marketing background. It's amazing.
So yeah, it was fun, and I'm still trying. And now with COVID, it's been such a fire hose. I've been taking a big step back, going, okay, what's the next thing to do? Where's the next thing that I want to enjoy? And that's, if anything, I'm pulling back, going, I've done all of this work for the last 15, 20 years in the meeting space. What do I want to do now? And what does it look like in the meeting space? And that's where, I think everybody needs, I think this has been, and especially the last year has been a big look at that. What do we really want? What do we enjoy? And I keep going back to the space, even though I'm like, I'll go do something else. I'm going to go garden, whatever, get out completely. And I always get pulled back in, going, no. I love the people. I mean, the people that I've worked with are awesome. I mean, you go through the meeting professionals that all the ones that I know of, I'm like, I have strong relationships with these folks. I like them. They're some of my best friends that I have. So,
yeah, we have a great community. It's really a fun place, very, very supportive place. Everybody kind of, I know we really haven't connected in person in a lot of years, but when I see you online, I support you. It's really that kind of place where we do lift each other up, and it's a real blessing that I've been introduced to it over the years. I gotta throw up this one picture here. This is the gang. So Sam's in there. You're right there by. I've got Emily in between us.
Mitchell Beer. There's Adrian Seeger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were fun times. Yeah. You got Rude in the back there, background there. It's just an amazing community. We had a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to hopefully doing something along the lines of more camp events. I've always talked about it. And one day I'll have the freedom, maybe when the kids are a little bit older. I know you're dealing with a lot of kids, but just to do it for the fun of it. And we really pushed the envelope, and it's interesting to see everybody sort of playing with the tools now. And there's so many different apps and doodads and thingamajigs, but I think we've expressed really well fundamentally, it's either an engaging event or it isn't. And so if you're focused on, the false positives, if you're focused on the wrong metrics, it's not going to be a good event. And if you're focused on the right metrics, which is human interaction, engagement, bringing people together and having some fun, as well as maybe giving out some information and being of service to a brand and the marketing team, you can create something that's really special and something that people will want to do again. So to that point, if you guys want to get Glenn involved in your event, Glenn, how can they reach you? How can they contact you? And who are you most looking to be connected with in terms of future opportunities?
Well, I mean, as far as that, connecting with me is simple. Email is glenn@glennthayer.com. That's fairly simple to do. As far as people connecting, I'm just from a business standpoint, is brands that are looking for a brand spokesperson, either to be the voice of their brand for voiceover, or the face of their brand. Those are two different pieces. Not only do I do live events, like I said, I do a lot of video work for brands as well. For me, I'm open to connecting with people who are interesting, people who are moving things forward and that are creative. Basically, it's like, let's get this creative pool back together, because really what I miss is the event camp days, where you do have this group of people that are thinking, and I hate to use the outside the box, but really it's just like, let's bring all these little pieces in all over the place. I love hitting my desk too. But it's really like, I'm open to connecting with folks. That's just really what it is. So it doesn't have to be necessarily for business development from that standpoint. Send me an email. My website's glennthayer.com. Please excuse that. My website was hacked, so I have a temporary site up right now. So
that's an interesting story. I would have loved to get into that. Maybe we'll have to save that for another day, but I'm sure that's got some interesting background around it. Right now, I know so many different companies are dealing with the security side of things. So we'll definitely have a round robin on that topic.
The easy way to put it is, I had a WordPress site and somebody had access to the back end somehow, and we're setting up like, here's the new China study on, that was and it was coming from my website. And then my email got blacklisted, a whole bunch of things. So I had to basically pull it all from the server, kill all of that, get it whitelisted again, and move it from WordPress over to Wix. And so now I've got a temporary up right now. And that's all it was. You change all the passwords and you cross your fingers going, okay, I changed platforms. Hopefully that works. So
yeah, I the control of the website thing is such a big deal, and as you give out access to partners and developers, it's a real rough thing. So I think we'll definitely have to get in. Maria says she's connecting with you on LinkedIn. I love that. LinkedIn is my jam, so I love that over there. So Glenn is definitely on LinkedIn. Definitely connect with him there. Maria says she's going to send you an invite, get you on Clubhouse.
That would be great. That would be great.
We need the voice of meetings and events on the all audio platform. That's for sure. Glenn, thanks so much for doing this with me today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Cameron.
Oh, no, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Say goodbye to the folks.
We'll see you.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C. Brought to you by Cameron T.